Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Well, today I'm joined by John from Santa Barbara, beautiful Santa Barbara, beautiful place in California. John, welcome.
Thank you. How you doing, Sergio?
Doing very well. So, I'm gonna let John introduce himself, and then we'll get into the trips and counts and money and rentals and all that stuff in a minute. But when did you get into driving for Uber and Lyft? Well, you only drive for Uber, but and what did you do before?
I got involved with Uber back in May of 22, right when the pandemic was ending, and my daughter had just gotten into University of Santa Barbara, so I thought it was a great way to go between my son at Long Beach, my daughter at Santa Barbara, and get paid to drive between them.
Yeah, and what'd
Yeah.
you do, if you don't mind me asking, what'd you do before?
Before the Depression in 2007, 2009, I sold timeshares for 35 years for different companies.
Okay,
Finished up with Marriott. At that point, I was diagnosed with cancer in 2007, fought it, and then it came back in 2009, and I had a stem cell transplant. I was one of the first stem cell transplants in that, what I understand. And at that point, I made the choice. I had to make the choice what I was going to do. I had three young kids, so I made the choice to stay low, get by, figure out what I was going to do to make sure those kids could go to college if they got themselves there. And that's where I'm at this point in my life. My three kids are all in college, and that was the goal. So,
okay. I have your numbers, obviously. I have your trip counts, and so you've
mhm,
been only doing Uber full time for since 2022.
correct. May of 22.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to Uber, like who told you, or were you always thinking about it? And 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 the type of car you drive, and then I'll let you tell the audience.
Yeah,
Uh,
I got started with this just because I had a car that had gotten smashed, so I needed to drive. So I said, oh, maybe I'll try this. This way I get a car, I can work, I can make money. And that's how it all came about that I started driving for Uber to have a car. Well, in to drive, well, make money also.
okay,
So
it's since 2019 you've been renting, right?
2022.
Sorry, 2022 you've been renting,
Yeah, because I
and
didn't know
what?
how it all worked back then. I kept trying to get my car insured originally, and then that wasn't, or because I just had basic insurance, and then I was going to get a car. I didn't know you had to just get the car, and they came with the insurance until it took me a month to figure out what was going on with all that.
Yeah,
Then I finally got insured with. I started with Avis, Hertz, or Avis Uber car rentals, and that was my first one. And but
okay,
it was the cars were always hard to come by, so you're on a wait list and that. And I just happened to be there one day when a guy came flying in, dropped off his car, and he had to go because his brother had been arrested by immigration or something. And so we cleaned it. The guy cleaned out the car, and I was able to get a car, and that's when I got started. And ever since I've had rent a cars from either Hertz, Avis, or Quinto.
okay. Well, one curious thing about you is that you never got into the EV crowd. So tell us why you don't choose to drive for EV.
Well, I always felt the car should freedom, and I didn't plugging in wasn't freedom. Plus, having cancer two times, I didn't want to be hooked to any more electric than I had to be.
Well, yeah,
Having the,
I
you know,
guess that makes sense. Yeah. But you're foregoing like a massive $210 for 200 trip
but then
bonus.
yeah, if that's if they don't wash it out like they do most of the time, because it'll all even out when even if you get the bonuses, they bring the fares back down to get you at where they want you.
Well, yeah, we have proven that. And but so John has done, actually I'm gonna let him do it. 3 years full-time driving in a rental, right?
Correct.
Obviously you change cars like probably underwear, but hey, it is what it is.
Hey, I go
Uh,
through tires like and brakes.
and What kind of car are you driving now, by the way?
Right now I'm driving Ford Explorer XL.
Oh, so you can do XL with it, and you can do
Yeah, which I turned it off.
okay.
Yeah, because
Um,
people were there's not enough room in an XL when you put people and luggage in it, and then you just get complaints. So I use it more for comfort and regular.
Comfort and regular, okay.
Yeah, because they had changed all the cars in January. They took a lot of them out of the comfort pool. So that's why I said, well, I'll try this, being this is comfort, and try the XL. But it didn't make any more money. It still came out to the same at the end of the day.
Yeah. So give us your trip count and everybody settle down. And give us your trip count and give us your acceptance and cancellation rate.
My acceptance rate right now is 100%. I do have some that I don't accept, so, but it cleared. I have 22,000 trips in 3 years, and I usually never deny trips unless they've gotten so funky that I've denied some recently.
Yeah, I know when they got to the $2, $3 range, then yeah, you let go of those.
Yeah,
So that means you don't care if it's 100-mile trip or it takes you to from Santa Barbara to San Diego County, or it doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
And because I mean, is that because obviously I'm assuming that's because I mean you're a smart guy, you know numbers. I'm assuming it's because you're in a rental. There's no, you're not wearing and tearing out your car, yourself. So is that one of the reasons that you're in a rental? You're just trying to maximize everything?
Right, and that way, it comes to the end of the year, I just turn it all to the accountant and makes it real simple.
Yeah. Well, on a rental, you can only deduct the rental cost. You cannot deduct the mileage.
Right, right,
Right. But so tell us a little bit about this 22,000 chips. So that comes to my calculations. That's about 7,000 trips a year,
right.
right?
Yes,
And if you're working 7 days a week, 365 days, that's about every single day, 20 to 25 trips a day.
right.
Do you
And
work
some
seven
some
days a
days
week?
it varies anywhere from 25 to 45 trips a day.
25 to 45 trips a day.
Yeah,
Okay. Are you like working 12 hours, 7 days?
not anymore. I used to. I don't work 12 hours anymore.
Okay. So but you're keeping the pace. How are you keeping the pace of 7,000 trips a year?
Um, 'Cause they're probably smaller trips and the dollar wise than that.
Okay.
It's sometimes like for the last couple of weeks I've been going 712s again, but
Okay. If you are not in a rental, would you be 100% acceptance rate driver?
if I wasn't in a rental,
Yeah.
yeah,
You still would be? So you're
yeah,
not concerned with, this trip I'm actually losing money on or cherry picking, none of that stuff. You just turn the app on and go.
I just turn the app on and go, yeah.
Okay. And the app keeps you busy, obviously.
Yeah, one right after another. No matter if it's like today, I've had so many $3.47 trips, but they're one right after another, and some I'm picking up this at the same place I'm dropping off. So
Yeah.
as long as I have people in the seats, I'm making money.
Yeah. As long as you got a butt in the back seat, wheels are turning, and you're making money. How has your experience been with the rental, by the way? I mean, any issues with renting or any, because we heard nightmare stories with Hertz. I don't know about Avis, but have you had any issues with that?
I've had issues over the years with them. I mean, trying to get tires done,
Okay.
trying to get brakes done. I mean, they won't pay for new tires. They'll pay for a used tire. I've gone to used car or used tire stores just to keep going and not stop. Because if I drive a car down and I have it rented out of Long Beach, gotta go down from Santa Barbara all the way to Long Beach just to get it changed out.
Oh, on
It's
a rental, they don't pay for tires and maintenance and
Well,
stuff?
they do, but they don't pay for new ones usually. And
Oh,
if you're out on the road and a tire goes out, it's either tow it in or fix it yourself, or you're going to be paying a big tow bill, especially if you're far away from the location it has to go to.
well,
Plus,
since you,
they don't want to fix a tire
yeah,
until it's down to two or three, which most tire stores are telling you you need to change these. But I've had tires that are down to one and they wouldn't change them.
wow, okay. Well, that's when you take the car in and get another car, I guess.
Yeah.
So in your 22,000 trips in 3 years with 100% acceptance rate, approximately how many miles do you think you've driven?
Um, I forgot what it says on my report. But I did from June till November on a Malibu I did 10,000 miles. And on this XL right now, I've had it 4 weeks, 5 weeks or so, and I've actually had two oil changes already, 10,000 miles.
Wow. 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 Okay. All right. So obviously it's a living, right? You
Yeah.
don't worry about wearing out the car. You can, change it and do whatever. But then
Mhm.
there's also I mean, you told us you're a cancer survivor, so there is also a physical toll, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's not a healthy thing to be in a car for 10, 12 hours a day and drive. It's bad for your back, bad for everything else. But how do you deal with that? Like, actually, give me your typical day. Give me John's typical Uber driving day. Tell us a little bit about that.
Basically, get up 6 o'clock in the morning, get the car all cleaned up, maybe start about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I don't really worry about the surges or anything like that because I know they're just going to even them out later in the day
Yeah.
if I take a surge in the morning because my numbers are going to end the same at the end of the day.
Okay. So, and then what do? You just drive? That's it?
Just drive. Then I
Okay.
stop in a park or I stop here or there. I have my new my co-pilot that travels with me in that to make sure I get out of the car and make sure I take breaks and that.
I mean, you must love driving, though.
Yeah, I've always loved driving. That's the part about this I like. I like the people and I like the driving.
Okay.
Dealing with
Well,
all the politics and everything else I could deal without.
well, there's one thing I ask to everybody I interview, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is tell me two things you like about Uber driving and tell me two things you dislike about Uber.
Um, well, I enjoy, like I said, the people, and I also enjoy, going to different places, seeing different things. What I don't like is always playing the games with Uber or, telling you this or that, and it's not the same as that.
Yeah, I mean, my advice to you is, which we were talking before we started recording, is, you know, I would recommend driving for both, but since you're in a rental that you can only drive for Uber, I think driving for both apps would make a lot of sense to you.
Hmm.
And also I get the EV part and the health issues with that potentially, which I don't know if it's proven or not, but
Hmm.
that's an extra couple $100 that automatically will fall in your lap because you can probably earn that in a week. I mean, you're doing 200 trips a week on average, aren't you?
Yeah, it was last week was 247.
And you're a platinum or diamond, I'm sure, right? Diamond?
Yeah, I did. I forgot to take a picture of it. I was just under 6,000 points for the last quarter for,
Wow.
so I diamond every month.
Okay. Well, you're in California. If you're getting that many points, obviously you're taking advantage of the Prop 22 healthcare stipend, right?
Right.
Okay, how's that working? Are you getting it in a timely manner or everything
No,
working as it is?
yeah, I did it in a timely manner. The first one became an issue because everybody came off of Medi-Cal at the same time
Yeah.
in 2023 into 24. They held everybody's stipend back because they couldn't process supposedly the paperwork soon enough. Even though they were holding $11,000 plus of my money, they didn't pay me for January of 2024. They waited and processed it until April of payout.
But they did pay you ultimately?
Yeah, well, not for the beginning of the year, even though the money was in there from prior.
Okay, so they floated your money for a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get
Well, they
top
got
offs? Do you get biweekly top offs under Prop 22?
every once in a while because the mileage that I put on and the fares they pay me, which is amazing, got top offs.
Yeah, yeah. If you're driving all those miles, it's 35 cents a mile. It's going to add up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Prop 22, but for you, maybe it's working.
Yeah.
All right. So 3 years, 22,000 trips. You just said you just rolled over 22,000 trips, 250 trips or so average a week, right?
Hmm.
Um, okay. How much longer are you gonna keep doing this, or can you? I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna.
Yeah. I've known it's taken a toll. I was in a lot better shape than I when I started driving Uber. I
Yeah,
mean, now it's like get out of the car, walk a set of stairs, and start huffing and puffing, or
yeah.
pick up a suitcase. I know it's taken its toll, and that's why I don't know how much longer I will do it or won't do it.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
I bought my own separate car, thinking I was going to put it into this, being it is you know, a hybrid Toyota RAV4. But then, it's like my daughter was so happy when she got to pick it up with me. I just said, "Oh," and then I found out on the commercial insurance. So I said, "Here, just drive this for a while. I'll keep renting." And
yeah.
I'm letting her drive it right now.
Yeah, you don't need commercial insurance, honestly, but
Yeah,
you should look into that. I'm pretty sure I'm regular on the laws. I mean, I'm
yeah,
familiar with it, but I don't think you need it. So let me ask you this about earnings, right? I mean,
mhm,
I talk to thousands of drivers every week,
right,
and number one complaint, they have a laundry list of complaints, right?
mhm,
Um, because get ready, by the way, to get some hate because when we put the video up, we're going to mention that 22,000 trips. Actually, I can call you my Ironman in Santa Barbara now because I have an Ironman in Boston who does exactly what you do.
uh-huh.
But at least he cranks like 3K a week after week, and he drives on both apps, and he drives his own car, not a rental. So you're the West Coast Ironman now. Um,
Yeah, that's like when they told me they told me I made 15,000 in 1 month. I said, "You're crazy. Where's the money?" And it was actually I did because I was cranking $3,000 a week, and it was August of 23. There was
yeah.
5 weekends, so it was 3,000, 3,000, 3,000.
So tell me a little bit about that. So you've been driving for 3 years since 2022, full time, all these trips, all these 22,000 trips in 3 years.
Right,
Um, comparatively, talk about a little bit about earnings. Has it fluctuated? Has it stayed the same? Because upfront fare showed up just when you started to decide to drive full time, right?
right. Yeah,
And the good part of upfront fares is we know where we're going. I mean, it's like everybody wants to see what the job is before we take it on. But in your case, I don't think it matters. You're going to take it anyway. Um, but
except if it shows up $2,777.66.
the what?
I had a trip. I was in Santa Barbara one night. It showed up $2,777.66. I said,
I
"Well,
hope I hope you declined that one.
yeah, I was from here to Destin, Florida."
Oh yeah, I hope you declined that one.
Oh,
Oh, is that do you drive with your dog in the car?
uh-huh.
Oh,
Since
okay.
July.
Oh, well,
This is
let's see the
a profile
dog.
picture I get out of the car. Come here, Yogi.
Let's see the doggy. So that's your companion, and do they? How did the passengers react to that?
Most of them love it. They're so cute, and because he just lays and relaxes, doesn't jump around or go by the passengers.
Yeah, it's a cool, calm dog, because otherwise, one complaint away from getting deactivated, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I didn't see. That's awesome. So that is your emotional support dog. You know how people bring in our cars emotional support dogs that are like little chihuahuas and stuff. I'm
Right.
like, well, that's not even,
Yeah.
whatever.
We pick them up all the time.
Also, he behaves when another dog comes in the
Oh
car.
yeah, because I get most of the special needs pickups that other people
Okay.
deny.
Okay. Well, let's revert back to the earnings for a little bit, for like a minute or two. So you from 2022 to 2025 today, you're doing the same amount of trips. You're in a rental, basically we're comparing apples to apples, but
Right.
we're just going to compare time slots.
Hmm.
Like, you know what you earned, and you don't have to tell us exactly, but
Right.
percentage wise, you know what you earned in 2022, 2023, 2024. Has it fluctuated? Has it changed for
Oh
you?
yeah,
Has it gone down? Has it gone up? Do
it's
you have
gone
to
down.
work more hours to make the same amount of money you were making in 2022?
Yeah, you have to work more hours to make the same amount of money. I mean, 22 when I started, I cranked. We had the contest then. I was averaging anywhere from 383 plus a week up
Okay.
into the 440 range.
Okay.
Now it's hard even to push 12 hours and still get 360. They keep you at that 22 to uh, $35 an hour or $30 an hour range. They're
Yeah.
always bringing you back to that. Say an example, I just took someone to Newberry Park for a wedding.
Okay.
Well, after that, I picked up and took some students to Pepperdine. Well, to go out of Pepperdine, they were going to pay me $26 to go in bumper to bumper traffic to West Hollywood,
Wow.
which those numbers don't make sense. But then they were going to send me coming back this way up to Oxnard, going up the coast. It was a 25-minute pickup. for the pickup for a $7 ride. So it would have
Wow.
burned up 25 minutes of my time to do a $7 ride.
What, did you decline that one?
Yeah, that one I did decline. That's why I
Thank
said
God.
I have some declines when they're just
Yeah,
off the wall.
decline and recline on those. So you
Yeah.
do look at the upfront fare screen. I mean, it
Oh,
has
yeah.
to somehow make sense, right?
Yeah. See, and the thing was, I never knew a lot of times what you were talking about because I've always just taken trips. I've never seen trip radar
Yeah,
until, recently. Before, I never saw it. I
yeah,
just went one trip after another. If there was surges in an area, I never saw because I was just taking the trips.
yeah. No, I think if you were not in a rental, I think you would pay attention to what we're saying a little bit more, be a little bit more of a cherry picker than
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we have a few more minutes remaining. I think we hit everything else, but I'm gonna give you the floor and give us some advice, man, because that's what we do at the end. I mean, the drivers learning from other drivers how to do it better, how to do it differently. Look, a lot of people do this, the same thing. Millions of people are driving for Uber, right?
Hmm.
Although they complain, they still drive, turn the app on the next day again, right? And my thing is this, all these interviews that I do,
Hmm.
I just do it for the other folks who can learn something from you, or maybe you're going to duplicate what you're doing, or maybe they shouldn't, but give us some advice.
Well, the thing is, they always say, you don't take the small trips, but the small trips sometimes are connected to the next trip. So if you don't take the small trip, you're not going to get to the one that could be right down the street, the big trip that's there. Again, as long as you got somebody in the seats, you're making money.
Yeah,
So, and that's why I take the small ones because a lot of times, like I shared with you, I'm picking up, dropping off, and I'm picking up at the same hotel. The next person's right there already. I don't even have to move.
yeah.
One gets
Well,
out, one gets in, and off I go. But then there's the other ones where they play where I got to drive so far just to pick up the one, and I know there's drivers in the area, and they're making me come all the way back to do a pickup.
yeah, no, I get that. And look, some people, we have drivers like you who take everything, right? They trust the
Hmm.
algo that it's going to do the right thing,
Right.
and some drivers can't do it. Or hate that because they just want to sit and do less trips and earn basically the same thing, but they're less active, let's say. The app is on, but
Yeah.
they just keep declining. And but I think you being a rental makes sense. I was gonna I actually forgot. I'm gonna go back and ask you this question. So since you take every trip, what if like you end up in LA somewhere, Hollywood or LAX or whatever, right? What do you do then? And what if the app doesn't take you back? Because Santa Barbara, by the way, folks, from LAX is like 150 miles ish. Okay. So what do? You dead mile back or what do you do?
It varies because I can go south, go home to Orange County, or come back here where my daughter is, or go to Long Beach where my son is. So I have,
Oh, okay. Okay,
so
that
it,
makes sense now.
stuck. I've deadheaded before. Before it made sense to deadhead. I could deadhead up from Orange County, pick up a trip here, and take it to the airport and make money
Yeah.
because I made 175 to 154 per trip.
Okay.
So you divide that by 2 hours for the trip down to LAX. By 4 hours, I've made money. But
Okay.
now they want to do that same trip for $96.
Okay. Yeah, they definitely cut the fares, you can
Yeah,
tell.
and see with the algorithm too, what people don't understand, you get your tips during the day.
Yeah.
Those tips go into the account right there.
Yeah.
The algorithm doesn't know what's fares and what's tips for that day.
Yeah.
So the algorithm then gives you lower, if you're a high tip earner, is going to give you lower fares of trips to
Oh,
keep you in that range of numbers that they want you in for your hourly. See, that's why they were giving me the trips they were giving me to come out of Malibu because my hourly with the tip was so high. They wanted to bring it down. So they were going to give me whatever they could to make the drive, eat up time to get my hourly back where they wanted.
so you're opening a can of worms here now. So hold on. So you're saying that you believe that the tips you receive in combination with the fares you have collected for that day, the next day or immediately actually, the algo tries to figure out not to keep you at that $50 an hour level and then bring is that true? Is
That is true.
okay, well, I take your word because you've done 22,000 trips in
Yeah.
3 years, which is probably more than what people do in 10 years.
I had a
So,
here did 70 or 70,000 in 10 years.
well, I need to speak to whoever that is.
Yeah, her name's Susan. I gave her a ride to the auto store the other day.
70,000?
Yeah, in 10 years.
That's about the same
He drives for
7,000 as
both.
you, though. That's the same 7,000 as you. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yours is commendable. So,
And, and see, the algorithm also, it isn't set to be a win for the passenger. It isn't set to be a win for the environment, and it isn't set to be a win for the drivers. What it is a way for Uber to box the money in that they're going to pay the drivers. That's why you have, say, if they're going to share trips with the driver. If a driver's already over what they want them hourly, they're only going to show them trips that are a certain, either a long distance, lower fare to bring their number down, or if they're not at the number, it's going to give them a shorter trip, higher fare to bring them up to the number. So it's going to even the playing field more.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And you're fluctuating, I'm assuming you're fluctuating between 2K and 2,500K a week for all that driving that you're doing? Okay. Well, it's not bad, man. In a rental, after you cover your rental, which I'm assuming is probably with gas, probably 500 bucks a week, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
With the XL, it's a little higher,
A little
which,
higher, yeah. But
yeah.
no.
But yeah, because it's basically $60 a day in fuel. And then the rental, this one's 480, but usually I pay 380 and I carry full coverage insurance on them.
Yeah, you
No,
should.
no, nothing.
Yeah. You're probably still netting a couple K a week, which is pretty
Yeah.
good. I would say it's pretty good. All right. Well, John, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem.
I wish you the best of health, best of be safe. Please have a dash cam. I don't know if you have one or not, because for all the driving you do, man, you need a dash cam.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, the problem is I have a lot of clients that are very important and they talk some pretty high numbers of deal money. So,
no, that's fine, but you can always turn the dash cam off. But
yeah.
for your safety, maybe you can only do the front coverage, accidents, things like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for doing it. And when I'm out in Santa Barbara, I'm going to look you up. Maybe I'll buy you some lunch. We'll eat some fish. They have good fish in Santa
All
Barbara.
right. Sounds good.
All right. You take care of yourself. Be well.
All right. You too. Thanks, Sergio. Pleasure meeting you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.